Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to the Plant-Based Morning Show. It's Thursday, September 14th. That means three things. Thursday for Doug, last show of the week for us, and Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime returns after last year, which was, for some reason, was interesting to us last year. Not really so interesting this year. I'm going to bring Doug in. Maybe we'll talk a little football for a second, and then get to the show, which is jam-packed today. We got some pretty good, fun articles today, including, I'd say, the biggest article, or I'd say the article that most appeared in the search results, dominated search results when I did any research this morning. Of all the times I've done it for this show. So we'll get to that in a second and reveal just what that is. All right.
More than my article on
Plant-Based News? More than
News?
that one. Yep. That one only had one listing. Oh, no, it got picked up by one other source at some point, I remember.
Yeah.
So that was good. This one, maybe 30 articles. It got picked up.
Whoa.
And it's not, it's just not that big of a deal to me. I mean, it is. I just don't know what the mainstream interest would be. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute.
So I think what the reason we were interested in football last year on Amazon was because they were doing like these like side shows, like side commentary people, right? Didn't they have?
Yes, there was Dude Perfect did one.
Yeah, Dude Perfect did one. Yeah, like these people who aren't experts in football commentary.
Right. And Peyton and Eli, was that an ESPN thing? That was just normal Monday Night Football, the alternate broadcast. Okay, maybe that's what it was. I remember they definitely had people on. Like, didn't they have people on after halftime or something to? I forget. Maybe I'm confusing it with. I think I'm confusing that with Peyton and Eli, where they brought a guest on to do part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll watch. I don't know why. I think Amazon for some reason brings a different vibe, and I think for me that's what I need with football. I'm just tired of the same thing.
The monopoly, kill all the small business vibe, the like treat workers poorly vibe. Is that the vibe?
No, that's not the vibe that I mean. But I do think maybe it stems from the same place. It just sort of, to me, this kind of sterile, boring product now. And maybe if I followed more closely, it wouldn't be. But it doesn't.
Amazon is the sterile, boring product? Or
oh no, sorry. I think you're talking about NFL. Okay, yes, because Amazon, of course, they have those issues. I thought you meant NFL because they also are monopolized. I mean, in many ways, monopolize American sports. Maybe monopolize isn't right. It's just the king of American sports. So anyway, in that way, I guess they're a natural fit. The two things, but I don't know. Just like I said, I got bored with NFL, and somehow Amazon makes it a little more interesting to me. But it doesn't last. I watch a little bit and then I stop. Anyway, also Aaron Rodgers.
Cat says they're running NFL on Nickelodeon now. What?
That's weird. Like on Nick at Night, like reruns of the old classic games.
Do they have like kid commentary?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's really interesting. I will look into that. I did hear that after the Aaron Rodgers injury, which ended his season on Monday night, he took like 5 snaps. This big hyped up move to New York. After that, the NFLPA is demanding grass fields to replace all the turf fields. And they're citing statistics which do show a higher injury rate by a lot on turf compared to grass. So that'll be interesting. Soccer has also pushed for that. We've talked about that with Messi, where he supposedly refuses to play on anything but grass. So, I guess it'd be a good thing if all the fields were grass. The players would be happier. And it's not very expensive compared to how much they make.
Did you see that some guy Monday night at like a couple hours before the game started sent out a tweet that said, Aaron Rodgers is going to tear his Achilles on a rain-drenched MetLife turf in 2.5 hours. No. And sure enough, 2.5 hours later,
2.5 minutes, and he did that. Or
this was like a couple hours before the game. He predicted a couple hours.
I thought you meant during the 2.5 hours of the game. Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
Like before the game started.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess with enough volume of tweets and social media things, eventually everything will be predicted by somebody.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Anyway, there's your football update.
Hey, huge shout out to Anne-Marie. Today's her 1-year vegan anniversary.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good. 1 year SOS free vegan, no less. Actually, I don't know when she did that, but I assume it all started at the same time. I'd be curious, Emery, if you just jumped into it right away, cold turkey, like just went for it all the way to SOS free, which is salt, oil, sugar free. For those who don't know, it's kind of forks over knives style, but maybe even a little more strict than that. Or did you get there gradually? I'm curious to know that, because it's a tough lifestyle to maintain, but she does it.
Yeah, I know she went in because she was experiencing some big health issues. So my guess is she went all in. But would love
Yeah,
to
people
know
with
more about
health
that.
issues sometimes do that. My mom kind of did that. All right, good. Well,
What else is new?
nothing.
What did you have for dinner last night?
Last night I made charros. You know what that is? CHARROS. It's a bean dish, and I've seen it in many recipe books.
Not a churro.
No, not
Charro.
that. Not that.
Okay.
Charros is the name of the thing. I don't know why it's plural, because it's just a big pot of basically bean stew. So it had black beans. I got that soy chorizo from Trader Joe's, which I've never tried before, but this recipe called for crumbled chorizo, like the real meat kind. So we got that instead, and it was a Rancho Gordo recipe, and it was pretty good. We've been eating a ton of beans recently, so that's what I made. What about you?
Nice. We had a chickpea chana sag over rice.
Favorite of the kids?
With favorite of the kids, yep. With a bunch of frozen spinach in there, and it's like tomato based. It was great. Very good.
Isa Does It recipe or different one?
I think it started as an Isa Does It recipe, and we've kind of morphed it over over the years.
I mentioned the other day that I was kind of not sure what to do about snacks with my daughter, because she was starting to get upset that so many things were being taken away. So yesterday in the store, they had 2-for-1 or buy one get one sweet chili Doritos on there. So it's normally $6 for a bag of that giant bag of Doritos. So I got 2 bags of giant Doritos for $6. Brought that home, and like to be the good guy who says, "Look, we got good snacks again." But here's my
I'm
logic.
gonna shame you for eating pretzels, but here, take this.
A lot of people have brought that up to me. Here's my logic: that the Doritos are eaten mindfully. The kids understand that it's just pure junk food in there, all these ingredients and things. So they have that, and like if I tell them just have a couple chips and don't overdo it, make the bag last a long time, they can do that. The pretzels they think are like, health food. They just keep eating it, and I just think no one would sit there and eat the whole bag of Doritos, because they understand it's a very thing you tread very carefully around the Doritos.
I think a lot of people eat an entire bag of Doritos.
Oh yeah, it's easy. And Holden and I were talking yesterday about how addictive, yet they don't actually satisfy. They're really good, but they don't. You never say I've had enough of those, like a normal food. And Holden brought up like chocolate. He said, you have a big rich thing of chocolate, you have enough. And you don't want more chocolate. But
yeah,
they make those foods so that doesn't happen. And maybe that's more true of Doritos than it is of pretzels. But for some reason, the kids keep eating the pretzels, and I don't know. Doritos just have this mystique around them. It's like those things. Be careful.
But do they just eat plain pretzel? Or do they dip it in like hummus or something like that?
Usually just plain. If they were dipping it in things, I'd be happier. But they're not.
So. Matt's war against pretzels, man. This is going to be an interesting one to follow.
Yeah, it is.
Will this be the straw that breaks the camel's back in the Frazier household, and there's a revolt against?
Well, that's why I brought the Doritos. I had to quell the rebellion.
Yeah.
Had to squash it.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh, you crack me up.
Okay. Well, like I said, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it and see where that takes us. Maybe but we'll finish right on time today. Okay, and I saved the big article till last in the weather report. It's not something we're going to talk about because it's just, I don't think that much to talk about, but we'll put it at the end of the weather report. So we'll lead up to that. All right, here we go. I think in unlikely news, McDonald's has two updates, really kind of 3 in our weather report today. So that's interesting. Number 1 is McDonald's Netherlands has added 4 new meatless options to their menu, and they're putting them above the meat options. I don't know about all of them, but that's one of these things they're doing. It's a campaign encouraging consumers to break habits and try something new, in this case, a meatless option. And what they've got is the McPlant Steakhouse, which is a beef-style burger with char grill sauce. If you get it without cheese, it's vegan. The meatless McCrocket, which I don't know what that name is about, but it's a breaded jackfruit burger. Temporarily replaces the conventional meat-based McCrocket. If Steven were here, he could tell us all about this because not only is this European, it's Netherlands, his actual country where he lives. But he's not here, so maybe he can tell us later. Veggie nuggets, they're permanently available. It's vegetarian, but it contains dairy and egg, so it's not vegan. And then the veggie chicken honey mustard salad, which has vegetarian chicken, but is not vegan because of dairy and egg. So I'm curious if those things, people buy those vegetarian options when they're not vegan. I don't know. It just seems strange to me. But anyway, so they did that. And then, they said they're altering their campaign budget to focus even more on the meatless item. So that's the Netherlands part of the McDonald's update. The other part, maybe a little more interesting. They by 2032 will eliminate their self-serve soda machines, which means no longer will germs spread from child to child or child to me if I go there and try to get a regular soda when a kid has gone and refilled his several times and touched the thing and touched his dirty cup to the thing. So, but they're not mentioning that. They're just mentioning that it's a more consistent experience for customers and crew. But I think I don't know what the refill policy is. I think people always enjoy that they could go and you can get a free refill, whether it was technically
free refill. Yeah,
but it never did I see McDonald's officially say you get a free refill when you order a drink. It just was like you kind of did it and didn't know if you'd get told not to or not, but you never did. So
I assumed that was always. I never worried about
unlimited free refills. You think?
Yeah.
So a whole person could go in there and buy one burger and then just stay all day drinking soda.
Well, I mean, that might be overdoing it a little bit, but I guess in theory.
Okay.
They make the chairs in McDonald's intentionally uncomfortable so people don't stay too long.
I believe that.
So I got a problem with this. I mean, sure, it's maybe a little more sanitary, but like the whole experience of going to a fast food restaurant is that you get your food, and while you're waiting on your food, you fill up your drink, maybe do a little mixing and matching of a couple different varieties there, and take your drink, then refill it again when you sit down, and then refill it again before you head home. Like that was the childhood experience, and I don't know. I just think
as a child,
crazy about this.
Do you still mix and match drinks, Doug? At age whatever age you are, 39 or something?
No, I do not. And
no.
I'm 30.
Okay. I thought maybe you, with your propensity for all these flavors and things, might like mixing drinks.
No. But you know what I do? What I do if I ever get a soda at a fast food place, which is very rare, is get Dr. Pepper, because it's just a flavor that I never get otherwise, and it is a bunch of different flavors. So maybe that's my
that's true. Yeah, Dr. Pepper's okay. It's so rare.
You're a Coke man. I know you're a Coke.
Yeah, it's just such a rare thing that like if I go and I get anything but Coke, I'm gonna kind of wish that I got that classic taste. I mean, it's the classic for a reason. It's that good. So if you don't drink it all the time, it's just hard to miss it. Cherry Coke I might do if they have cherry Coke as an option. Anyway, okay, so that's one thing that's happening. I am surprised though that continued to happen for as long as it did and has and still will until 2032 when it's finally gone from McDonald's. I would have thought that with COVID, like that just would have ended and just been a done thing, because this next thing is related to COVID. Apparently, since the pandemic, people do not really eat out in restaurants like they used to at all. I can't really understand why that is. I don't know if people are still afraid of germs or if it's just
a change of habits.
Yeah, just like, is that all it takes is like a year of doing something differently, and now we don't go out to eat in fast food restaurants anymore? It just seems strange to me. I don't know. Or people, once you start not doing that, you realize somehow that it's way better, or at least in some way more convenient in the moment not to go in. I don't know, but they've decided because of that, they've had a surge of business in drive-through. I saw a double McDonald's drive-through the other day, which I've never seen before at McDonald's. So they took a page out of Chick-fil-A's playbook there. Yeah. And also their delivery services. So what they're doing is they're getting rid of some of these dining rooms. They're starting a new thing called the CosMC, or Cosmix, I guess. CosMC, all one word. Terrible name, in my opinion, for that. It just I don't understand. Right. Cosmix. What does McDonald's have to do with Cosmix? McDonald's has nothing to do with that, though. Right? People want this nostalgia with McDonald's. It's just not like a futuristic.
Whatever. Fair enough. Okay.
So anyway, it's a small format location with a reduced dining area, and they'll be trying that. And then also, they've also trying stuff with like I said, the higher tech drive-throughs that can handle more. And And so they're changing. And so apparently are Chipotle, Taco Bell, and Starbucks, all thinking about redesigns to their dining spaces, not necessarily for the same reason or to do the same thing, but they're all thinking about changing. And it's amazing to me that COVID did that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's COVID. I just think this is maybe just a difference in behaviors of like new generations and stuff. I mean, people aren't taking their families, family dinner at Pizza Hut or McDonald's really isn't a thing anymore. I mean, I guess it probably is for some people, but I never really hear much about that. If you're going to get fast food, you're going to get it and bring it home or go to the park or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird. I would think that like that might be true. I don't know. I just can't understand why that would be. Like everyone's busier now, but it almost seems like to me like that would mean like we'd replace the home sit down family meal with the go out to eat meal, and we do that instead of cooking. Maybe instead it's replace home sit down meal with have sit down meal, but you bring in McDonald's for it. I don't know. It's strange. So I don't know. So maybe COVID just sort of brought everything to a head. Like maybe the culture was ready for this, and then COVID happened, and that's what it took to really make everyone finally shift. But anyway, it's happening, and it's interesting to me.
Carmen says that they miss the play places with kids.
Oh yeah,
with kids, only reason to go.
Well, speaking of germs,
I used to love those places. Yeah, that's the ball pits. Gross me out so much. This is not a COVID thing. That's just a grossed out thing.
Are they gone? I don't know. I thought they still had those things. I don't really know. But I guess you don't see that very much. But every now and then I'll drive by one and I'll see a slide or something. Okay. So we talked a few weeks ago, or maybe last week, about a new report that was looking at who exactly is buying plant-based foods. Well, I found a different take on that, or at least reporting on different questions there. And one of the things they found out, this is from the Food Industry Association, the FMI. I don't know why they got that acronym if it's Food Industry Association, but they surveyed 1,062 shoppers, and what they found about plant-based food was that that taste is the primary reason people choose it, and also the primary reason people who don't choose it. So those who like it do so, many of them, because it tastes good, they said, and those who don't, they don't go because they don't like how it tastes. So I thought that was strange, because that's not at all what I would have thought. Right? I thought people who choose it are doing so for something besides the taste, and people who don't, maybe the taste, but also healthiness and all these other things. So that's kind of strange to me. Thought it was interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting is that people who currently consume these plant-based alternative food and beverages say they will increase their future consumption. But those who are not regular consumers of these do not expect to increase their consumption of plant-based alternative foods and beverages. So more polarization, and less than half of people say they include one plant-based food or beverage in their diets regularly, which means once a month. So less than half of people eat something like that one time a month. So that's pretty amazing to me. I don't know why. I just sort of assumed that omnivores were trying this stuff more often than that.
I guess maybe when it was so brand new, but like, are omnivores buying veggie or like Beyond Burgers?
I don't know. I thought some were. I thought maybe a bunch of flexitarians were one time a month or once a week we're doing a meatless meal. But yeah, I guess not. The other thing that I wanted to comment on there was this thing about increase. Like, would you say, Doug, that you plan to increase your future consumption of plant-based products? Like, when I envision the future, I envision myself eating essentially zero of them. Just sort of moving gradually towards more and more vegetables, and like realizing that this was sort of a mistake, that I went down this road and ate all these meats for a little while. Fake meat.
I would say I've found the happy place.
Mm-hmm.
Once a week, maybe less actually these days. And they serve their purpose.
Before. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. But they serve their purpose in the right time, right place, and I'm all for it. And but I don't think I'm gonna eat more of them. But I'm definitely not a zero in the future for me.
Yeah, no, I mean not a zero, but I'd like to get to the point where I don't eat them at home, where it's like a special occasion thing, like alcohol is actually recently for me.
So you're like you're a Whole Foods and a Doritos guy. Like that's your meal.
Yeah, right. Every now and then, nice sweet chili Doritos, which are vegan, by the way. I should have clarified that. I mean, we've said that before on the show many times, but someone maybe knew. Yeah, and they're also a favorite of Patrick Mahomes. So one of my kids told me, the Chiefs quarterback. He likes that flavored Doritos. Okay, more here. Food labeling laws keep coming up again and again. Not too much here, but Tofurkey has filed a legal challenge against a Texas food labeling law, which took effect September 1st after being signed into effect or whatever in May. So it did what they all do. It mandates that products resembling traditional animal-derived items are prominently labeled with their nature as plant-based or lab-grown. So I shouldn't say it does what they all do, because some of them are trying to say you can't even say burger, you can't say all these things. This isn't that. This is just that they have to be prominently labeled that says it's plant-based. But Tofurkey's arguing against that, saying that the law is vague and could result in substantial redesign expenses for plant-based food producers. So was that the pose there you just dug for the shot?
It was. Yep.
Oh,
yeah, it was.
Okay. Okay. I thought it was kind of funny that Tofurkey. I mean, I don't know. It just, I get it. Like they do say their stuff clearly is plant based. I think, as far as I know, I've never.
It says tofu in the name.
Yeah, but that's probably not enough. But I think that, chicken style deli slices, I think maybe is what it says, or turkey style. I'll look that up actually.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see then why. Okay, plant based deli style, oven roasted, plant based deli slices, hickory sliced. So this is not confusing at all. But apparently, I think they were thinking if this law is not totally clear, then people are going to have to take excess precaution and redesign all their packages, and just be over the top clear that it's vegan and plant based, and they don't want to deal with that potential risk of getting caught for that or something. So I guess they just want clarification in the terms to make sure that it's clearly spelled out what you need to say, so that they can realize whether or not they need to redesign their stuff. Doesn't seem like they would have to based on this.
I mean, I think that's just good government right there. Good law making. Make it very clear. Ambiguity is bad.
Right, of course. Yeah. Okay, so there's that one. And here's the big one that I Googled today. I actually had to check my Google search to make sure that I hadn't accidentally inserted the word cat into my, vegan news search, because every article it seemed was about the idea a new study has shown, or has found, that cats tend to be healthier on a plant-based diet than an animal-based diet, which perhaps the reason for it being so interesting to these news outlets is that it is shocking in some ways, because you all hear all the time, dogs can eat a plant-based diet. They can survive on a plant-based diet. Some say thrive on a plant-based diet, but cats are obligate carnivores. That's the phrase I always hear and see, meaning nature designed them to eat meat, and there's nothing you can do about it. No matter how woke you are, they need to eat their meat. So that's why this is interesting. Even places like Daily Mail, which hates vegan stuff, even they put it up, and it said it was something like now cats are being told they have to eat vegan or something like that. But then the article itself, it's pointed out that the number of vegan cats in the study, which was like shockingly to me, 10% of the total number. So they looked at 1,369 cats. 1,178 were fed conventional meat-based diets, and 127 got vegan diets, whereas 64 got raw meat diets. So I don't know if the study just surveyed a whole bunch of cat owners and found that 10% were eating vegan diets. That seems really unlikely to me. Or if they, planned it to be this way, and set it up this way, and that was the group that was supposed to feed their cat vegan diets. I'm not sure about that. I didn't look that closely. But anyway, the Daily Mail was saying there's only 127 vegan cats in this whole thing. How can we draw any conclusions on that when we're looking at health outcomes and things that might only impact 5 or 10% of cats anyway? So then you have very small sample size of the vegan cats who are able to even get that illness. So that was their complaint. But, they weren't otherwise saying this was fake news or anything. So I don't know. And the researchers, here's what I thought was interesting. The researchers mentioned there, contrary to what everyone seems to believe, they said these results largely concur with previous similar studies. So although this was the largest such study yet, other studies have shown similar things. So I saw some, and some I don't know if a veterinarian or whatever animal person, who probably not a vet, but it's someone who an animal, whatever, biologist, I don't know. They said something like, there's nothing about meat that makes it necessary for anyone. It's the nutrients themselves, and if you can replicate those nutrients or put those nutrients into the diet, then it shouldn't matter what they're eating. So I couldn't find much data on like or information about like what was the vegan diet. Like who's just going to start giving their cat a vegan diet and not
Yeah.
make very
And
clear
what
effort
does it
to
consist of?
substitute? Right. I don't know. I'd like to know that. My dad's cat once we tried to give him Beyond Meat or something to see what he would think of that because they were telling me they're obligate carnivores, and he was not interested in that at all. It was like he thought that wasn't food to him.
Really?
So I thought that was kind of
Huh.
interesting. I thought, wow, maybe they really do need actual meat, but this would say otherwise. Says of 22 specific health disorders, 15 were most common in cats fed meat, while 7 were common in the vegan cats. I don't see anything about how the raw meat cats did, but there are 2 things that I thought about this survey that I thought maybe this could bias the findings. Just trying to be devil's advocate against myself here. I thought, first of all, they asked the owners to report the cat's, illnesses and likelihood or what the vet was saying. That came through the owners. So if these were people who and I'm going to look up, by the way, whether these people were like made to be vegan for the study, their cats, or whether it was people who already were giving vegan cats. But I thought if someone's just a person who gives their cat a vegan diet, they're not listening to most of the mainstream advice on cat food, cats. Like they might be a pretty staunch vegan diet supporter person. And then maybe their reports about what the vet says or how likely the vet is to say that their cat is sick, maybe that would be biased because the person wants to, be advocating and say, look, defending their cat's vegan diet. So that was one possibility. Is people might just be trying to defend their cat's vegan diet. The other one, and Aaron brought this one up. What if like the vegan people are giving their cat some sort of homespun diet where they're putting together some food and different things, and it's mostly a whole food homemade diet for the cat, and the people who are eating the standard meat cat diet are just going to the normal grocery store and buying it, and it's full of all this junky stuff that isn't just raw meat. Like we spend a whole lot on our cat's food because it's like it's the only way to get the pure stuff without all these additives and whatever else in it. So maybe just the vegan cats happen to avoid all this basically ultra processing of foods.
Yeah, they're just eating
the other ones aren't.
A more natural diet. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you might wonder maybe a little bit of meat or some amount of meat plus natural stuff would be better than either extreme. So I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Mr. Jeffrey says, which is kind of along those same lines. My assumption would be that the type of person who people who care enough to feed their cats a vegan diet probably also take better care of their cats on average. Not that there aren't diligent cat owners, but out of those numbers, I bet that you have overall weight and under cared for cats.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree quite with that though, because to me, someone like unless you've done a ton of research and are someone who really knows more than just about anybody when it comes to this stuff, I would think someone feeding their vegan cat is more likely to be a negligent person who's like, well, I'm vegan, I want to make my cat vegan, and they're just not even
I don't know.
caring. I've just never known someone who even argued that a cat could be vegan. So I don't know. Very interesting. I do not know. I'm not reading the survey itself, but it's just kind of too dense for me to read while we're doing the show.
I wonder if you feed your cat vegan diet for years and then if they're an outdoor cat, are they still hunting down like animals and eating little animals, little mice and stuff?
I don't know about that. That's a really good question. If it's an outdoor cat, yeah, I mean, all bets are off then for sure. Mm-hmm. They did say there was another confounding factor here was that some of the cats, I guess, were being given treats, or all the cats, or some, I don't know, somehow were being given treats, 42% or something. And those treats contained meat. So it's possible that some of these cats who were supposedly eating vegan diets were also getting smaller amounts of meat through their treats. I don't know why they didn't control that and make sure that the vegan cats didn't get the meat treats, but apparently that was one potential issue here. So
it's interesting. It's interesting because, like you said, yeah, like that's you hear all the time that cats can't be vegan,
right?
So.
Yeah, just can't be. All right, I was really hoping to find this thing about whether or not the people. Oh, here the questionnaire was completed and revealed that participating cats had eaten vegan diets for 6 months to 6.5 years with a mean of 3.9 years. So that sounds to me like they just selected people who. Either they just selected everybody and that amount said their cats eat vegan diets, or they selected on purpose people who had said that their cat ate vegan diets, but they didn't just say feed your cat a vegan diet for the next year. So yeah, that answers that. So anyway, I don't know. Strange. All over the place. Everyone wants to know about this. Apparently.
Even cats have to be vegan now.
That's right. Or they're being told, actually, the cats are being told they have to eat vegan for the Daily Mail. It's not just that they have to be, but people are telling the
When
cats.
the soy boy rules the world, all creatures are vegan.
Here's our headline. Now even cats, all capital letters, are being told to go vegan, exclamation point. And then felines who follow meat-free diets have fewer health disorders and are less likely to need medication, study claims. So the study claims it. Study doesn't find it, it claims it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Steven's here.
Do you hate cats too, Doug? I meant to ask that. They also have hair, so they shed like dogs, which is your primary reason of hating.
Oh, I love cats. Cats are my favorite. Yeah,
but they shed as well. You told me his hair was the main problem.
I know. I get over it a little bit because they don't give you a car and stuff.
That quiz about are you more Doug or Matt? That should have a question that says, what do you think about dogs? And it says, I hate them, or I really like them and foster them and try to make sure they have a good life and help the ones out who are difficult. And that should definitely be on there.
You know I don't hate dogs.
You said it once on the show.
I just don't want them anywhere near me. No, that's not true. There's some cute dogs. Our neighbors just got puppies.
Oh yeah,
and they're bringing so much joy to our kids right now, which is very sweet.
So. Oh, good. Maybe you'll turn over a new leaf. All right. So as you mentioned, Steven is here. Steven, you can tell us about McDonald's. I don't know if that stuff's already being served there, or I don't even know if you heard that part of the show. But
he didn't hear it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, someone wrote it. Yeah. Check it out, Steven. Netherlands, 4 new McDonald's options, plant-based. Only 2 of them are vegan. I think
the McCrocket, the meatless McCrocket.
Maybe Steven can tell us what a McCrocket is. I think that was my original question. And why is it called that? It just sounds like a strange name. All right. So then getting to our main thing, which we talked about yesterday and said we'd get to. It's this self-experiment. Here's the original. I think this is the original article, and then it got picked up by a lot more and shortened, and things like The Guardian got a much shorter version, or made a much shorter version. It's from theconversation.com. The headline is, I self-experimented, in quotes, to compare a vegan diet with eating meat. This is what I found out. And it's by Eric Robinson, professor of psychology, University of Liverpool. And basically, the reason I thought it was uninteresting at first is like, it's just him being Tim Ferriss and saying, I'm going to try being vegan and then being not, and then being vegan again and being not. And I'm going to make notes about how it went. This guy's actually a scientist, which Tim Ferriss is not. So he seemed to have a little more rigor than I've seen from Tim Ferriss's stuff. Not that this is all about Tim Ferriss at all, but it is about the self-experimentation.
Talked so negatively about Tim Ferriss before.
Yeah, I do have mixed feelings about Tim Ferriss. I think some of his stuff is really good, and his podcast has some really good things, and I think some things are really not good. But anyway, so he did this vegan thing. He was vegan before he started doing this. It happened 3 years ago from dating someone who was an animal rights activist, and that turned him vegan. He kind of stayed that way, and then decided he wanted to study this thing. And so during the January of 2020, I don't know, 2022, I think. Yeah. He stayed vegan, which is kind of weird that he did that during January, but he did. He recorded now carefully everything that he was eating, and his weight and his mood, and the things that were motivating this, by the way, I should have mentioned, there's the health thing, like, does vegan actually make you healthier? Especially if you kind of carry on most of your lifestyle habits and things. And also, are vegans happier? Because he's seen this thing about veganism and depression or anxiety. And also says there's good science showing that people generally don't like vegans that much, that you were less liked by people if you were vegan. And so he wondered as well, would that kind of impact your overall happiness? And so he did this self-experiment, and I'm trying to find the part. There was something about it it was that it's kind of hard in a non-N=1 situation where you're like self-motivated to go study and see what happens when you go vegan or not. He said people who are like in a clinical setting told to go vegan for a year or for a few months or whatever, if they don't want to be vegan and they're just kind of doing it, signing up for a, being part of a trial, and then they have to do this, it's going to be different than someone who is ethically motivated or has some motivation for wanting to be vegan. And it's
Right.
perhaps more interesting to study someone who, like, because obviously anyone who goes vegan, well, not anyone, but a lot of people are wanting to be vegan for some reason. And he wanted to study that. So the reason I initially thought this wasn't that interesting is he goes vegan for a month, then he goes non-vegan, then has a little washout period. I don't think he had a washout period before, and the washout's in between phases of a trial like this, and which is not just N=1. This applies to sometimes groups as well, where you have a group do both things, but you want to have some gap in between so that you don't have spillover effects, like from the vegan period spilling over into your non-vegan period, just the results that might be in your body or your mood or whatever. So he had some washout periods at some point. And then he did it again for longer periods this time, changing the order. And he kept careful track of everything: mental health, weight loss, how much alcohol he was drinking, all these different things. And he did actually publish the paper, which I didn't realize at first. That actually makes it a lot more interesting and valid to me. It was published in Physiology and Behavior. Put a link if people want in the article, or sorry, in our chat. He did that and tracked his weight and all this stuff. And like, if you look at the graph of his weight, it's really not that difference. The fluctuation really is at the beginning of the year, he's 78 kilograms or so. And then he dips down all the way to 75 at the end of his washout period, then goes back up, and then he's gradually getting lower throughout the year. But never like drastic swings in weight. The difference of 2 or 3 kilograms would be, I think, 5 or 6 pounds or so. So this isn't like enough to say like, wow, like vegan would totally change my life. But you got to realize he's only doing this for 1 or 2 months at a time. So when he loses a pound, when he loses 2 pounds, a kilogram, or 2 kilograms, which would be 4 pounds, when he loses that in the span of a month or 2 months, he then extrapolates that, and he says he uses a model. I don't know what it is, if he's just multiplying, but he says over the course of a year with his model, he would lose something like 10 or 12 pounds. And that becomes significant. So I thought that was interesting. And then he also said his mood generally found that it was the same. Did not really get affected by the vegan. He was as happy either way, eating the foods that he could or couldn't have. Eating the foods that he could have. And he was happy with the fact that he couldn't have certain foods. It didn't change how he was. And that's kind of interesting thing. I think it makes sense. Like, I think you would just, in my experience, and I've only had the one experience, but like, you adjust to the point where you get this baseline reset and you forget that you used to be able to eat these foods and now you can't. You just get used to eating this new stuff and you're happy with that. So I'm not really surprised by any of this. And I think that's why I didn't initially think it was interesting enough to talk about. But I don't know. What do you think, Doug?
Well, there were a couple like things that stood out to me a little bit in kind of a eyebrow raising way.
Mm-hmm.
One was, so he started out doing Veganuary. January 2022, he was vegan, but he was going into it having already been vegan for a while. Is that right?
Yes. Just hadn't been recording anything.
So of course, when you switched in February to a meat diet, like, your weight's going to shift, things are going to change, right? Because you've been vegan for a while and suddenly you're introducing animal products.
Yeah, they would change, but you wouldn't know which way they changed. A lot of people would say, well, he's going to be way healthier now when he starts eating animal products.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like maybe you should have had that flush out period beforehand for a couple months. And then...
and what would he do during the flush out? Eat meat and then go back?
Just eat eat meat, but like maybe somewhere, not... Because when he was eating the meat diet, he said he was like every meal he was trying to eat meat. Like something kind of in between.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe not. And then also the other thing that is like a month isn't going to tell you that much. And if you're coming in, like, let's say you're an omnivore now and you do your first month on a vegan diet, it's going to be a lot harder and probably a lot more stressful and impact your mental health a lot more than if you're coming in from years of being vegan and having perfected your vegan culinary skills, like he talks about. So
yeah,
like I would hate for somebody to read this and then like have a really hard time on their first month and be like, oh no, this isn't for me.
Yeah. There's also this thing that we talk about quite often, that when you do like a 30-day challenge or something, one of the things that works in your favor and makes that challenge easier to complete than if you just said, I'm, forever now I'm vegan, or now I'm whatever this thing I'm trying to test out is that there is a finish line. And so
Yeah.
no matter
Right.
how, hard it might be, you always say, well, I can get to this point and then I can do this again. So this guy though, during his time, like, especially if, and I don't have a reason to think this, but especially if he, after being years of vegan, he was kind of looking forward to having meat again. Um, if his mood had gotten worse over the years because he couldn't have
Uh-huh.
some of the foods he loved, then the very knowledge that he's going to be able to eat meat in a month, I would think would start to feel like a finish line and make him happy again, or at
Right.
least near anticipation making him happy. So that's kind of a problem. Um, yeah, and so
But had he also gotten meat and then like suddenly felt way better, more energetic or something like that after years of not eating meat? Like that would be telling too, I think.
well, I'm surprised that didn't happen. And to me, that would be all that would tell you is that when you switch diets, you immediately get a bunch of new things that you weren't getting for a long time, and usually that's going to result in a mood uplift, I would think. Even if you went the other way, you go from meat back to to a vegan diet, suddenly you start eating a lot more vegetables, all these things, and your mood feels better, and your energy might even go up. And if you go
Yeah.
the other way, you get the same thing, because if you eat a certain pattern, you'll start to get a whole lot of the nutrients that diet does well, and not so many of the ones it doesn't. And then when you switch, you're going to feel good for a short time, and the problems will be more chronic in nature of a lot of these things. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, these n equals one, like, it just doesn't seem like serious research to me. It's just hard for me to like think like
Yeah.
this is in this. I was surprised to see this thing published when I realized it was yesterday, because it just doesn't seem like a study like that anyone should care about or listen to. Um, he talks a little bit about the value of these n equals one experiments,
Yeah,
and
there's a history of them.
does he talk about the history of people doing them? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, self-study or self-experimentation has a rich history in science. It dates
Hmm.
back to hundreds of years. Um, and he gives some examples of
Right.
the N equals one studies. I mean,
Yeah.
what's interesting is that they could potentially spark enough interest in doing a wider study, right? Like this isn't going to tell you anything definitive at all. Um,
But isn't that stuff already happening? Surely people have already studied what
oh
happens to
yeah,
people's
yeah,
health when
yeah,
they go vegan
right,
and then go not.
right.
Uh, so I'm just thinking, like, what's the value here? And one of the things he says somewhere that is good about these N equals ones is you learn exactly what the diet does for your particular body,
Mm,
lifestyle, brain, mind, whatever. Um, and like, you don't know if a vegan diet is good for you or if it's bad for you until you actually try it yourself. And that's the way to figure that out. So
that's right. Yeah,
so people, and this is like us doing 30-day challenges, like, you learn a lot about just for yourself, and it's not applicable to other people necessarily uh, when you actually try it on yourself. And so that's a really nice thing. He also mentioned that thing about people who like requiring people to become vegan for a study. It's unlikely to capture what will happen when they adopt veganism of their own accord, he says. And
mm,
so in this case, if you've got someone, but that doesn't have to be n equals one. You could have lots of people who are already vegan. Uh, Although then maybe you can't get them to go non-vegan for a little while. That's quite a problem. Um,
mm.
so yeah, I don't know. I think my problem with like the Tim Ferriss culture is the n equals one thing. People see that and then they say, okay, Tim Ferriss, I guess I do need to eat 17 almonds per night because that's what helps optimize, your sleep. And that must be what works for me too. And I think Tim Ferriss has made a living on acting like that kind of advice is end all be all. Like those little, that minutia, really, like those super specifics. People care about that stuff for some reason. It's interesting to people. I remember there was some book about how Beethoven used. I mean, one of the things was how Beethoven used to have exactly 53 coffee beans or some amount of beans that he, you know, meticulously counted out or required to be counted out, and that's how many went into his coffee. Uh, and people for some reason care about like what these hyper good performers do, you know, down to the minute detail like that. Um, it's a weird fascination. So I don't know. I think that's my biggest problem with n equals one is people look at that and try to
And
act like
try
it
to
happened.
replicate it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and they act like that came out of a big study using lots and lots of people. But of course, you never find something like that from there.
Yeah, I mean, I find those interesting, right? I mean, it's interesting to see how an athlete or high performer what they do specifically. And then, so then you can begin to experiment with it yourself and see if it works for you, right? I mean, because I do agree that like it's a study can tell you something about diet and nutrition, but until you try it yourself and run the tests and see how you feel and do all the stuff, like you never really know how your body's going to respond to it. That's why I'm excited to announce that starting next week, I'm doing a 30-day carnivore challenge.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think I find it interesting, but the problem is, like you said, if people treat that as like the end all be all or as thoroughly tested scientific evidence, that this is a good thing for you.
Yeah. Maybe my problem with it is like the vegan diet has been studied a ton. And so like, why do we need this now? Right. The guy did in the history, some guy did a scurvy study with vitamin C or something and like figured this out on his own. Yeah, I mean that provided convincing evidence when he finally one person did the self-experimenting on himself, John Crandon. Like if this was a brand new thing that people were really reluctant to adopt or consider even being worthy of science, then I understand like, yes, do this first and then raise interest if you get good results or interesting results. But I just don't get the point. It just seems like that's why I'm so surprised this has kind of caught the attention of media because it's like I don't really see what the news is here. What is new about this? Yeah. So anyway, the guy did decide to stay vegan. He said that weight loss, it points to, I guess, better health, which you can't immediately conclude, but for most people that probably is the truth. Only because our society has so many people have the problem of being heavier that if a diet causes weight loss, then it's got to be maybe taken seriously. And then his mood stayed the same, and I guess he likes being vegan for all these initial his animal rights reasons that this woman kind of helped him form.
Yeah.
So I know that's a happy ending. He's staying vegan. So we can all say.
I mean, like that's also the problem, right? Is he came in with a clear bias, having been vegan for a couple of years for a variety of reasons, and so
yeah,
the fact that he maybe lost a little bit of weight and doesn't feel any different, like he's just doing it, like of course that's what you're gonna choose.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I think this sort of captures what my feelings were about this article when I first saw it. That I don't know. So there you have it. There is
Steven says that Wim Hof, he's taking shots at cold plunges here. Wim Hof has grifted a whole career out of out of being uniquely good at being cold.
Do you care to defend cold plunges, Doug?
No, well, yeah. I mean, they're the best ever. They're going to change your life
for everybody.
I mean, I've long said that I have no idea if there's any actual benefit other than it makes me feel good, and therefore I keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that what I've said?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. Fun feels good. I think right. You don't do it because it's
fun. Feel good. Gives me energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it giving me long term? Any long term health benefits? I don't know.
Right. Who knows? All right. So good. That's it. We'll end it there. Stephen did clarify that a McCrocket is pronounced croquette. I guess is the word, like the French. I don't think it's croquet because that would end in just one T. This is TTE, croquette. It's a deep fried meat snack. So croquettes that I know of, like in Spain, croquetas, they're like little things of batter that get fried, and sometimes they have ham in them, but they're not like a sandwich you'd have on a burger. So that's strange. I don't understand that at all. But if I ever get to the Netherlands, I will try it. Stephen listened to a 2-part Behind the Bastards podcast on Wim Hof this morning. No shade on cold plunges. But he said grifted a whole career. Doesn't grift imply that there's some sort of swindling going on? Grifter. Yeah, small-scale swindling. Yeah, petty or small-scale swindle is a grift. So I don't know. Who knows what Stephen thinks about Wim Hof? I've never gotten into that stuff. I every now and then like think it's interesting, the breathing stuff. not so much the cold. I don't care about that. I hate being cold, but the breathing things that he
Breathing,
supposedly
yeah.
can do, or getting to interesting altered states through breath. That's kind of cool. But I don't know why I've never taken the time to look into it or try it.
Yeah.
Should do a little N=1 maybe. Report,
Maybe
publish in a
should.
journal. I'm gonna start submitting anytime I do a challenge, I'm gonna start submitting that to a journal. And see
To a
what happens.
journal.
See if I
There
can
you
get
go.
published like this guy
Uh-huh.
did. Because he's a scientist, or the headlines all say, "As a scientist, I tested myself." or
Well,
whatever.
as a New York Times bestselling
Yeah,
author, you can
right.
say, and award-winning podcast host.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna start doing that. All right.
Any plans? Any big plans for the weekend, Matt? Worth sharing?
No, Holden goes to Nashville with the team, so this will be our first weekend where he goes away and we just stay at home and
Oh, that's big.
chill out. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to imagine going to Nashville and then realizing I don't have to do it. So that alone makes me kind of happy. I will miss seeing his game, but I'll get to see the recording of it at some point. No, I don't think I have any plans. I mean, my daughter will have a game or two, so it'll be nice. Why? What about you?
Cool.
Going to the lake thing, lake makeup, going to the blob,
Lake makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna slide down the gully guzzler or something like that they call it. Go in the blob.
It's like a commercialized thing. You have to pay for this lake access.
It's a summer camp that the big group rents it out.
Oh, okay. Bring your own beer to it, or they serve beer there?
BYO everything.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I hope that goes well. Hope your weather is better than it was last weekend.
So do I.
Is it supposed to be?
I think so. I haven't looked in a couple days, but should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Should be a fun weekend. Maybe
right.
some Beyond Burgers.
Yeah. Good. That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Great. Well, everyone, thank you for attending the show this week. We'll be back on Tuesday. Enjoy your weekend. And that's it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
See you
Goodbye.
next time.